Hey everyone, and welcome to the Problem with Authority podcast. Today we are going to be talking about my problem with the church and how that relates to social work. And I want to give a shout out really quick to Sandeezy, who gave me his awesome remix, which is our new intro song, which I'm super excited about. And today I have a special guest with me, laughing. My little sister, Kaitlyn, Kelley. Woo!
Yes. Should I put my credentials?
Sure.
All my many credentials.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a student at Tallahassee Community College. Yes.
Snaps.
And hopefully FSU, if you're listening. I will be attending FSU in the fall of 2021.
Yes.
Studying communications, so.
Specifically public relations. She is the magic behind all the stuff that I do on social media and the podcast. So we wouldn't be here without her.
No, you wouldn't.
All right. So before we jump in, I want to give you guys a little bit of our background. So I'm sure some of you might be upset by this title, but before you guys come for me, let me explain. So I grew up in a Christian household in Baptist churches, and I went to a Methodist private elementary school, and so did Kaitlyn. So we do have a lot of experience in the church.
Little too much, I would say.
Yes, we were heavily involved. We were the type of kids that were like, we went to the
Sunday.
Methodist school. We were there for like 5 hours on Sunday, and then we would go to youth group on Wednesdays, and then we went to church camp in the summer. Like, it was intense.
That was a trip.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. We could have a whole episode on church camp and what stuff goes down at church camp.
It's insane. And then we also ran our own small group. Kaitlyn and I both did separately. So I had my kids from when they were 5 to 5th grade. Mm-hmm. And when did you have yours?
Same.
5 to 5th grade?
Wow. Yeah. I really influence lives. I hope I didn't scare anything up.
I know. I very much was just stuck to the
just be nice.
Just be nice. Please just be nice to people. That's literally it.
Yeah.
That was the Church of Kiersten. Be nice.
And don't talk with your mouth full.
Yes. So right now, I would say I'm more spiritual than religious because of the problems that I have with the church and what they preach. Where would you say you were at?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think, you just, take things that you like from different things that you are interested in, and I think that's where I'm at now.
Yeah, exploring and really taking in, I think, all religions, because when you grow up Christian, you're told, this way is the right way, and that's it.
Other practices are really demonized, and it's scary.
Yes, and they're if you are doubting Christianity or questioning it, they're very much you
will go to hell.
Yeah, that's the devil. You can't question it. So I don't think that's a great environment or atmosphere to be in. Now today I want to touch on some of these problems and how that they can trickle into social work. So Kaitlyn's not a social worker, but she really does understand the aspect where I'm coming from of having problems with the church. So let's get into it.
Oh now. Okay, listen, I know people are listening to this and some are going to be a little upset. Yeah. But we're not coming from a place of criticizing your faith or your religion. Mm-mm. We're talking about the culture of the church, which is very different.
Yes.
And if you're in any type of basic history class, they will tell you the stuff that the church has done and continues to do. So please don't take this as us trying to tell you what to believe, because that's not what we didn't like it when we were told that. We're not telling you that.
No, we just wanted to give our perspective, and then I wanted to share with my mental health professionals out there how I think some of the negative aspects of the religion trickled into how I thought about people in social work and how I think that can be harmful to other people. So before we get fully into it, I want to give a little disclaimer. So I will not be talking today about the truth behind Jesus and Bible stories. We will be talking about the culture of the church and how some things they preach are harmful. So that's very different. I'm really not here to get into a philosophical conversation.
We didn't go to Bible school.
No, I did not go to Bible school. And I'm sure there's some people out there that know way more about this than I do. But I do recognize the pros of the church, such as community, the charity work,
right?
And they can be amazing safe places for people. And I've seen it. I've seen people rely on their church for so many different things, and it can be a beautiful thing. But this is a Problem with Authority podcast. We're talking about the problems with things, and the church has proven many times to be harmful to some.
And it really affected my life, like in how I thought about things, and especially children. I think it's really impactful for children, and it can plant these ideas in your brain that it causes a lot of anxiety even later on in life, and it's just a lot of deprogramming you have to do, and it's just good to talk about and be honest about, honestly.
Yeah, I would say for me the biggest things that it hurt in my emotional aspect of my life is anxiety, fear, and guilt. Would you say that was the same for you? Yeah, and we'll definitely
in every aspect of my life.
Yes.
I'm okay. We're good now.
Yeah, we're healing.
We're good.
And, I believe in a higher power. Like, if it's God, it's God. If it's a woman, it's a woman. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I feel there's something else.
Whatever. Whatever helps you sleep at night.
Oh, my goodness.
You know, do what you gotta do.
Okay, so another disclaimer is I, Kiersten, am a mixed white passing woman, and so is Kaitlyn. She's a little more mixed looking than I am.
I guess, whatever.
In some aspects. To some people.
I guess.
So we are telling our experiences from that perspective and also from a Christian Baptist church. So my experience, our experience.
Which is important because race has a lot to do with the church.
Yeah, it does.
Especially if you go to a predominantly white church.
Yes.
Yeah.
And towards the end of our experience of the church that we went to,
we saw it with our mom.
Yes, there was a lot of things that happened to our mom because she is Creole, which is black, French, Native American. Yeah, so she has brown skin, and my dad's white. So we saw a lot of negative things happen to her there. And then towards the end of our experience, we started to see more people from different backgrounds and races come into the church, so we got to see the culture change.
That was good.
And that was cool. And also kids of different sexualities, which I think was pretty good as well.
I also think that was because they wanted to keep people at the church, because if they were being very discriminatory toward them still, they would have gotten less and less people. So I think that might have been a business move as well.
So that is the thing to note, is that
I don't know if it was genuine.
Really? You don't think
I don't know if it was.
Because here's the thing. So I knew that kids in the church had different, sexualities, but a lot of the time the church was still preaching, or some leaders in the
specific church.
Yeah, was still preaching that, being gay is bad, which I do not believe. I believe you were born the way you're born.
Yeah.
Love who you love, and everything like that. But
there were more kids in my generation that were out.
Yeah, than mine.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they didn't treat them any differently from what I saw. But I definitely think it changed with younger leaders and whatever. But we can get into what you're want to talk about.
We'll get into that in a second. But it is important that, you did make a good point, is that churches can be political. And a lot of people are like, separate church and state, but at the same time, churches still have to make money. And our church was a big church. So it wasn't like a small little one that didn't have a lot of people, and they really wanted money, and they really wanted to expand the church.
It's like a medium-sized church. It's not like the ones in Orlando.
No, yeah.
But it was
it was pretty big.
It was a business.
And the pastor ended up running for mayor. So that was...
Let's talk first, and we'll get into it.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Okay, so I also want to distinguish the difference between faith in the church, because some people might not know the difference. So faith is your belief in God or a higher power, and I am all for that. I really haven't struggled with that there is a bigger force greater than me out there that I feel that exists around us, and whatever that is for you, that is totally...
Even if you don't believe in that.
Yeah, whatever. But the church is a place where individuals gather to praise, worship, and discuss the teachings of the Bible. And with that comes culture. With that comes conflict. So those are the type of things we're going to be discussing today.
Their perspective of the Bible.
Okay, so my first problem is the teaching that we should be saving others from their sins. So this for me is problematic for many reasons. So first, what the heck defines a sin?
Everything.
So
everything you find joy in, pretty much.
Yes. So growing up, I think in the Christian Baptist faith, I guess, what we were taught is that all sins are the same in God's eyes. So if you lie and somebody else kills somebody, to God, that's the same thing.
They equal the same?
Yeah.
I don't know what math class that was, but how do you tell that to a child?
I don't know, and I didn't get that. And I was like, okay. And also, not all churches believe once saved, always saved. So, and
True.
For those of you who don't know what that means is, in the Baptist church, you would give your life to Christ essentially and accept him into your heart, and you would get baptized. So once you accept him into your heart and you go and do the baptism, you are now a saved person.
Yeah, and no matter what you do later on in life, it can't take that away. That's what the Baptist church believes.
Exactly.
Other faiths believe that you have to continue to repent for your sins or you won't go to heaven. There's a lot of other things.
Because we can just ask for what I was told is that we can just ask for forgiveness and we'll be okay.
Like if you kill someone, you say you're sorry, you're still going to heaven.
I don't know.
Apparently.
So let's just put it this way. The church that we went to, I'm not going to say what it is, but there was a man who murdered
a couple women.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Allegedly. Whatever.
But,
he did it.
Yeah. It was interesting. I mean, you can tell the story because you were still there. I was in college when it happened.
I was there. He, the news broke that he had murdered this woman, and it was someone he was in a relationship with. I'm not sure like the details on that, but the church kind of immediately or the people that I was around when the news broke, they had meetings. And the church, I don't know if you guys have ever been to a church, but it's built on gossip. Community, whatever you want to call it, it's gossip. That's what happens when large groups of people get together.
Judgment.
A lot of judgment, scandals. That was one of the best parts of going to church, if I'm gonna be honest. I wanted to know who was doing what, who left who. That's what people do when they're all together. And when the news broke, they had a meeting about it, and I just did not like the place that it was coming from. A lot of people went to his defense and were trying to pray for him and not the woman who passed away and her life was taken from her.
Yeah, they were like victim blaming her.
And they were like, they did say pray for his family and whatnot, but it's not like they were praying for justice. Like it was just really strange, I think, how they handled it. And a lot of them turned it about themselves and their experience with this man, even though he was just a person they saw on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And it's like, not that surprising.
He was never not nice to me. Well, honey, you think he's gonna murder you right in the middle of our prayer?
It was a lot of women, and this is a part of like church culture with women and giving excuses to men for the stuff that they do. And that's a bigger topic of conversation.
Yes.
But that was just something that I noticed, and that was a huge issue. Like, he murdered someone.
Yeah. And in the Bible, just to give a little context where Christian women get that, is are a bunch of verses that are, have really underlying sexist messages to them. And one of them is I'm not going to quote it perfectly, and I'm not going to give you the what's it called?
The correct biblical
location of it in the Bible, but it's, what is it? Women are to like serve their husbands, or the man is supposed to lead.
They're the servant. It's something like that with Adam and Eve or something.
Yeah, or like the man is supposed to like lead the relationship. So the Bible is very.
I mean, every religion is super sexist. They all have that in common.
That is true.
You learn that.
True.
First lesson you learn in humanities.
The world is like that. But religion, they almost teach it.
Yeah. Especially at the church we went to with a male preacher who basically taught that every Sunday.
Yeah, there were a lot of misogyny,
and it wasn't even funny.
No, it was not. Okay, we're getting off track now. Okay, so others believe so. We had mentioned that Christians are pretty judgmental and honestly hypocritical a lot of the time. So
they love to talk.
So some honestly would be like, oh, like I can lie and I can like gossip and I can be basically a shitty person.
And racist.
Yes. But if you have sex before marriage, you're going to hell, man.
Oh, we're talking about this?
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Now listen, I absolutely hate this belief, and I think it's extremely harmful, especially to women. So let's just think about this. Like, let's think about who was writing the Bible.
All right, I'm picturing.
Who is it? Who's writing the Bible? Who's writing it on the paper? Because in that time period,
is it men?
Oh, I think it was men.
Can you imagine if women wrote the Bible?
Ooh. Okay, so men wrote the Bible, and if humans have free will, that's another thing that Christians especially love to talk about is your free will. If you have free will, you make mistakes. So there is definitely 110% some patriarchal BS that plays into the teachings and interpretations of the Bible. So if you think about it, right?
Well, it's all by men.
Yes.
So,
and I love to say all the time that history is honestly just gossip, because if you think about
it is. I mean,
like
the people who write history are the ones who won.
Exactly.
So I mean, and then we can get into that with America and nationalism, but
all right, we don't have that's to. A different episode.
But in the Bible, are we gonna get into your experience with the whole sex before marriage thing? Do you want to talk about that?
I mean, we're going into like, to me, Kaitlyn and I thought growing up that like marriage is just a piece of paper. So if you want to save yourself for marriage, that is totally fine. Do you? But I think the virginity thing and pushing that so hard, especially on the women, and like you're pure, and like once you're not a virgin anymore, you're a dirty whore. Like that's terrible. And I think that it's a hard thing to overcome feeling guilty about, and I think it really does. It does some damage on your
psyche.
Your sexuality and your psyche, how you feel about sex. So, and some Christians would say that guilt is God reminding me of my sin and how I should do better. No. I say really no to that, just because of how harmful the whole, virginity message is.
It's also a made-up concept, the whole virginity thing.
I think.
It's not, it's men, they don't place not even a little as much of a big deal as it is with men.
Exactly.
And it's just made up. It's literally just a made-up concept. I mean,
I think it was
you have sex.
Yeah, it might have been, honestly, I would love to look into more like the history of it. Like I could see it as like a social control.
It is. And it's like when a girl has sex, a man is taking something from her.
Exactly.
And it's not the case.
It's literally making my stomach hurt, you saying that.
But that's what they.
That's what it is.
He's taking your flower. Like what the heck?
And so, like back to my point was, Christians would say that guilt is God reminding me of my sin, and let's think about this. So if I'm sitting here, I've grown up, I lived in the church, and I'm saying like this was a really harmful message to send me. I had to do a lot of inner work to be okay with the whole sex before marriage thing. Then we should be really thinking about the Bible, because us humans could be getting it all wrong. And I'm so tired of Christians acting like there is no way,
like they know what they're talking about for sure.
Yeah, that there's no way the teachings of the Bible could be wrong, that they could have had an agenda or be misinterpreted. And I know that so many people have like said that like Jesus was real, like he was an actual person. Like that's great. That's totally great. But I think that when it comes to some of the things that they push on people and how hurtful they are, it's like, well,
the Bible has been interpreted thousands of times.
Yes.
And the people that interpret it have their own biases.
And it wasn't...
So it's not going to be exactly even what it was intended to be, if that was even correct in the first place. So for a man to sit up on a stage and say they know exactly what this meant, even though all of it is so broad, and it's supposed to be broad so that you can take it from whatever you need.
Exactly.
For a man to sit up on a stage and say this is exactly what it means and this is what you need to do, and it's just ridiculous.
It is, because you think about it, like me and you, we've been sisters for
for
18 years, right?
Yeah.
And we communicate to each other, and you can say I love frogs, and I hear,
well, right, it's just how
I love pigs,
right?
And and it could be clear as day, but it's just how you interpret that information,
especially when a man is interpreting it, which obviously does not apply to all people.
No. And for that time period, like women did did not have the rights that they do today.
Especially the Marys. The Marys were going through it back then.
Oh, the Marys.
Marys.
Okay, so also others believe in the Christian community. Now, another disclaimer, all Christians are not like this. There are some really progressive and awesome Christians. Like, I do see them out there, but I'm talking to the people that...
Also the vast majority.
Yeah, the vast majority of people that are not on the same page. So some Christians believe that they can call themselves Christian and then condemn the LGBTQ plus community. And you can't do that.
And can we talk about that for a second? Like, about where that even comes from, because the verse that they say that comes from is also, I looked at the direct translation, and that could be interpreted into a million other things. So when did Christians look at the Bible and said, this is one of the one things we're going to be upset about, and we're going to make a big deal about it? And why?
It's like, damn, like, everybody needs to leave my sexual experiences alone.
I know.
And who I want to love.
Like, I know. And like, you know, the LGBTQ plus community contributes so much to our culture.
Oh my goodness. And
can they find something else to hate?
Yes, and oh my goodness.
It's so extra.
And
it's just tiring.
Do you remember the translation? Like, do you remember what
it's something with Sodom. It's the whole Bible story where, like, someone was taking over. There was like a war. And I might be completely wrong about this for people who know the Bible, but some army took over another army, and there was a conflict, and there was a man who was going to, I think he's going to have sex with another man, but it was also interpreted he could have been trying to sexually assault him because he won, and that's what they would do back then. Ew. So they would? Yes, they would pillage people. In every culture, they would do that.
Oh my God.
So the Bible condemned that man for doing that, but people were like, he could have been condemning him because that he wasn't consensual, like it was rape.
Wow. So what's the message? The Bible's saying don't rape people.
Yeah, period. But they took it as, don't be gay. And there's another verse that it wasn't just that one. There's another verse that they talk about.
Oh, there's millions of them that they try and say.
But that was one of them where people were like, well, because there are gay pastors in this world. And you can look them up, and they talk about this, and they make their case, and they're like, you know what I mean? So it's just like, it's all up into interpretation. And it's not the faith. It is the Bible, which has been misinterpreted in a lot of different ways, and people putting their own spins on it. So it's really not about your relationship with God
at all.
It's the people's relationship with people.
Exactly, because it's like Joe Schmo in your life have nothing to do with who you talk to and pray to at night.
No,
absolutely. It's literally just you. It's all of them and their mess and their internal issues and homophobia.
Applies to everything, and that's just what people do.
Oh, it's exhausting. Absolutely exhausting. So, so I literally, put here, like, I don't believe being gay is a sin at all, and I think it's a lie told to control people.
And also, sexuality is so fluid, and
just let us all be free. So, now I'm going to talk to Christian social workers really quick who believe that being gay is a sin, and I'm going to tell you right now, you cannot compartmentalize your beliefs and safely work with LGBTQ plus clients, period, at all. So I suggest diving into what makes you uncomfortable about that and doing some inner work, because you can't compartmentalize.
The thing that happened in Texas.
Yeah, yes.
Do you want to explain this?
No, you can say it.
Well, I think it would be better coming from you. You're the social worker. Talk about the thing in Texas.
Okay, so there was what was it? This year,
I don't have any concept of time. It didn't happen that much long ago.
Texas was trying to say that social workers could discriminate against LGBTQ plus clients. So basically,
by not serving
by not helping them in whatever capacity
they
that
can
you are
refuse them as clients.
Exactly. And Texas was like, absolutely not. Well,
at first they were thinking about it.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the social workers in Texas were like, absolutely not.
Texas but it's just was crazy. On my list for a second.
It's just crazy that in 2020, like, that pops up on the news, and you're like, what the actual heck? Like, it's literally in our code of ethics that
you guys learn about that stuff.
I know, it's literally in the code of ethics. Like, don't do that. So again, like I suggest diving in and doing some inner work, because it doesn't make sense that like the main message of the Bible or the church is that God loves everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then they'll say at the same time, being gay is a sin.
It's a catch-22.
It doesn't make sense at all,
Mm-mm.
and it's extremely traumatizing and harmful to preach this. And a lot of people, I think it's called there's a term for it when you are traumatized within the church, and there is, and I'm literally blinking right now.
That.
No, but like specifically for this specific
That's
issue.
crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there is, because
like with
of
conversion therapy and everything.
Well, people that try and do that stuff,
that should be
and
illegal.
the terrible messages that they send to just to kids, and it's like, well, they're thinking, like, a kid's thinking that they're gay or trans or whatever, and then their parents are telling them that they're gonna go to hell, and it's like, well, that's terrible. Absolutely terrible. And my last point on this is that fluidity is amazing and freeing. Like, I don't think people understand the impact that the LGBTQ plus community has had on everything.
On even like they, I don't know if people know this. I watched a documentary on it. They were they were a big part of the start of the women's rights movement, Black Lives Matter movement. They were at the forefront of all of these movements that affect cis white people, straight people, all these people. Yes. And they were there for us. They were there for us in history for all of these things, and people don't talk about it.
No.
That's why, like, it just blows my mind that we're not taught these things in class. Like, there should be a whole class just on LGBTQ plus history. There should. Because they have impacted and changed so many things in just American history. Yeah. I haven't even looked at abroad in other countries.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And it's ridiculous that you're not taught this in school.
Exactly. So stop trying to keep everyone in these rigid and boring boxes of...
Well, it's boring.
Yeah. Heterosexuality, hetero whatever. Like...
Heteronormity.
Just done. Done and done. So, moving on to reason number 2. White saviorism. I'm sure people are tired of hearing this word, but I don't care. It runs rapid in the Christian faith.
Are we going to talk about the mission trips?
We can touch on that at the end. Yeah. So I looked at the definition of white saviorism just to give a Google definition of it for you guys. So it is self-serving, and it applies when white people help others of different... it's just said races, but I think it has to do with races, socioeconomic backgrounds, and all walks of life. And then I added this in there to help their ego and fuel their whiteness, essentially. Because it's not just, I think, with different races, it's definitely with different socioeconomic backgrounds, like them being like, oh, I donated clothes to the poor today. Yeah. Good job, Sherry. Like, like, what do you want? It's so terrible the way that Christians will use things like that as a weapon. Yes. But then at the same time, they're like being such a terrible person to you, in your relationship with them, like within the church, within the church community. Like, they talk a lot of crap about you, or they try and like get you fired from certain positions in the church. Like, I could tell you guys some crazy stories. And then they're like going and being like, but I'm a good person because
or they're not properly educated on these communities, and they try to whitewash them. It's really upsetting.
Yeah. So, I mean, we can touch on the mission trip thing right now.
When it comes to mission trips, and I've noticed this a lot with people in our church specifically, kids would say, like, I'm going to go to Africa for 2 weeks, and I'm going to go stay there with these children, and I'm going to, tell them about God's love, and I'm going to build a home for them, and all of these things, when the church isn't properly educated on these children's culture. And a lot of the time, what they'll do is they'll say, okay, we're going to build you this place for kids to learn. So it's like a school, and they'll be like, the kids are going to come here and they're going to learn, but what is the curriculum that they're teaching these kids? It's a Christian curriculum. So these kids who come from different backgrounds, they have their own religions. Like, all these places, I think Christians forget or they do know.
It's colonization.
Yeah, colonization. And they're like, they want them to be taught the correct religion, which is Christianity, to them. So these children are being converted because they want to be educated. So it's kind of, they're tricking these children in a lot of ways to, you know, be converted when all they want is education. And
yeah,
you know what I mean?
And Kaitlyn and I never did those trips, and I honestly don't even know if the places that they went were even in need for anything. Honestly, like I do not have a firsthand experience of the stuff that goes down over there. I just know what I've read from other people. So it's just a question of ethics, and a lot of the time the church will put themselves in positions like that without knowing anything or having any competency in anything but their own personal beliefs and agendas. So then it causes some serious problems, but then they can post on Instagram.
Right.
Look at me with all these little
you
children.
know, and what kind of children are they usually posting?
They're
pictures of black children.
African American.
And you know, the church is not educated on how to handle what these children have experienced in their lives, such as trauma, you know, living in an impoverished community, supposedly, if that's really where these people are going. And, you know, I think, you know, the church isn't educated, so they don't know how to handle these things, but they still try to handle these things.
Yeah.
And it's not
just like them going to a place like Panama and helping people over there. There's missionaries that me and Kaitlyn have known that literally their job in Thailand is to quote unquote rescue prostitutes. And when I first heard that, I was like, that is extremely problematic because like I know from their background that their, you know, degrees were in Christianity or whatever, so they don't have a background in those situations, and sex work is sex work. And is it a choice always? In some places, no, but
it could be the only option.
Yes, and it could just be like, who knows what they're doing over there. And when I first talked to those people, my heart was just like, oh, like
there's no regulation.
No, there's not. And that's another thing to get into, is that with churches, they can, you know, put themselves in these positions to have organizations like this, but they get a tax break, and they also don't have to play by the same rules as everybody else.
With the plan.
Exactly. So there is a clinic here on campus. We'll give another example that
this is wild. This is crazy.
That fronts as a
sort of like a Planned Parenthood.
Kind of, but like not to that, like.
But if you're in an
emergency,
exactly, and you need to get an abortion,
exactly, or even if you just have like an STD,
right?
So they front as a place that, you know, will help you and get you where you need to be and you know, are all for women's rights. Well, they're not. And I've met women, because I'm in the College of Social Work, so a lot of the people that I work with, you know a lot of organizations around town and the craziness that happens within them. And they have told me that when women have gone in there, they'll be like, oh, yeah, like you can get an abortion. And then they trap you into a room and they're like showing you pictures to try and scare you out of it, trying to literally put the fear of God in you, which Christians or just honestly, a lot of religions in general love to do.
Right.
So that you're so scared out of your mind that you just don't even want to do it anymore, which is an infringement on your rights. It's so invasive. It doesn't give you a choice, and it's terrible. And I've even heard that they'll pretend to give you the pill, because anybody that doesn't know, if you are earlier on in your weeks of your pregnancy and you are going to have an abortion, you can get the pill versus the surgery, and they'll give you a fake pill, which doesn't have. It's just a sugar pill. No, like, it's really not a pill.
That should be illegal.
So, or even birth control, or they even might try and do it with birth control too. I don't know. It's just a hot mess.
I don't understand.
No.
How they're still operating.
I don't know. I've absolutely, but so many women I was in the room, and the stories that I was hearing, I was like, oh my God.
That happens on a college campus with college kids.
Exactly. And so social workers, you know, or mental health professionals in general, that would be another tip that, you know, be careful with where you're interning. Right. And especially because I understand that if like you're religious and like you're going to go work in a place that is of your same religious background, I'm sure that can be really exciting and comforting. But at the same time, just know that they don't have to operate under the same ethical obligations
Correct.
of honestly even like the NASW code of ethics. And of course there's problems and loopholes with that one as well, but there can be some serious things happening in there that I'm sure you don't even want to be a part of. So just be careful
and research it.
And talk to people before you get in there, because, and it's, you know, it's not just religious organizations that do unethical things, like trust me, like in social work there's a lot of places that are doing things they're not supposed to, but just specifically with religious organizations, that would be just something I would keep in the back of my head.
They've been doing it for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
So
exactly. So my next thing is, I believe we should not be telling people how to live their lives. And this idea that we must save people from their sins can turn into a saviorism complex really quick. So from a personal experience of mine, I feel like in social work, the way that we're taught is like, we must save people. It definitely, social work has a saviorism complex because that's what it was founded off of, right? So when you come from a Christian background and those views are also being told to you, like, you need to save people, you need to serve people, you need to convert. You are, since you have a relationship with God, you are special and you need to make sure that everybody else has that. So you have an ego. You have an ego
like
about
you know something that others don't.
Exactly. And then it turns into that whole saviorism. Oh my gosh, like, they were just struggling and they didn't have a voice, but look what I did. Right? And I think that can become really problematic really quick. And I always say this to people when I'm talking about social work. It's a lot of inner work and it's a lot of unlearning. And I think that religion plays a big part in that, because those same, view, like we were talking about misogyny before, like, Christians love misogyny. I mean, not all of them, but a lot of the teachings are very misogynistic, and so that's being yes, and that's being reinforced in us. So then we're going into the real world.
You get it everywhere.
Yes, and I mean, yeah, that is true. It's not just in religion; it's everywhere. But Christians teach it, like, it's taught in the Bible. You read it as scripture, you read it as truth, like how they tell you to be. It's your walk of life, it's your it's the essence of your being type thing, and it can be very bad.
And they teach it to children to go out and share this message. So they're having these children go out and be little converters to their friends or other people. And I, was definitely taught that. And I brought other kids to youth. And because it was a fun place to be just in general when I was younger. But I remember bringing, like, people I knew there. And, like, I feel kind of bad about that.
Yeah. And especially if, like, the church just didn't accept them for whatever, because
most of my friends at that time were LGBTQA+.
Yes, they were.
And I really apologize if that added to their drama.
Exactly.
Because, you know what I mean? Yeah. But that's literally what I was brainwashed to do. And, the gun to your head thing, like,
talk about that.
I don't know who brought this analogy up. Do you even remember who brought this analogy up?
I don't know if it was
definitely talked about. Like, if you're in a dangerous... So this is what it was. Well, I don't know if it was... this in... They do.
Subliminally and directly.
Right. But let me preface this. They are telling this to underage children.
Like little ones.
Little children. They're basically saying, if you are in a dangerous situation and someone asks you, do you believe in God? Like, would you stand up knowing you're in a dangerous situation and say that you do? Which we brought up the gun to your head thing. Gun to your head.
Yeah, they would say, like, if you had a gun to your head and they said, I won't shoot you if you deny that you believe in God.
Right.
Would you deny it? And I'm like, fuck yeah. I'm like, what are you talking about?
I'm just trying to go to dinner.
I'm 4.
For real.
What a ridiculous question. That is traumatizing.
That's just one of the things. And I don't know if that was brought up in private school, which private school is a little different from the church, but private school is definitely a problem.
Private school connected to, like,
private schools that are connected
we went to a Methodist private school.
Yes, we went to a Methodist private school and a Baptist church.
Which was confusing as heck.
I don't know the difference.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
It's all the same. At the end of the day...
Oh my goodness. And I said this before in the beginning, judgment is such a huge part of Christianity.
They are judgmental little bitches. We can bleep that out, but It's the truth.
And Christians are some of the most judgmental, I said it in the beginning, and hypocritical people I have ever
You
met
go
in
to
my life.
church to get the tea.
You do. It's
You
literally
go to
like
church.
you watch Housewives. It's like that times 10.
Oh my god. The Baptist housewives.
The Baptist Housewives of Kissimmee.
Oh my.
Yeah, they're some of the most hypocritical and judgmental people I've ever met. And I think it's a huge problem. And it has to do with this idea that if you talk to God or you go to church, that you're some sort of special person. You're not.
It's not.
You are.
It's not Avatar. It's not like Star Wars. I wish it was.
The Force.
You know, and that's a religion in Star Wars. That would be an entirely.
You know,
and that's what I think meditation is. That's what I think meditation is to some more spiritual people.
You know, meditation is so westernized. I think it's a huge problem that has to do with this idea that if you talk to God or if you go to church, then you're some sort of special person. You're not. You are just as messed up as the rest of us.
Yeah.
Right? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I got into this a little bit before, but my big problem number 3 is how saviorism negatively affects you as a social worker. So this idea that you are, or that we are superior to others because we have a relationship with God and occasionally help the quote unquote poor, but white Christians can walk around being racist, ableist, homophobic, classist is disgusting. And you know, it's not only white Christians, you know what I'm saying?
It's not.
It's not. It's definitely not.
No. No.
It's absolutely not. So it's terrible. And you think about it, it's like, so my higher power, like talking about Kiersten's higher power, I don't think that being believes that that hurting others is okay. And
I honestly think they have better fish to fry. Like, she's doing other things. She does not care. You know what I mean?
What do you mean?
The higher power to me is a female.
What is she doing?
She doesn't care. She's doing other things. She's making mountains. Like, she doesn't have time to worry about who's sleeping with who. And you know what I mean? She doesn't care.
No, but she's gonna be mad if you hurt somebody.
Yeah.
And I think she's more mad than people really realize.
Well, yeah.
Like, they're gonna get it. You're gonna get it.
We got it.
Oh, so yeah, and I don't know where some Christians got the idea that, you know, you're on your way to heaven because you read the Bible, but in every other aspect of your life, you're like terrible.
Well, and that's also like being extremely scared of hell.
Ooh, hell. I totally forgot about hell.
I hate hell. It's
because
so
you know what I do every day? I wake up and I have to push it out of my mind.
Kiersten, every day I'm like, I hope I'm not going there. I hope it was made up. I watched Soul and I felt so much comfort.
Right. See, here's the thing. This is what Austin thinks. So Austin thinks that you just, like, when you die, you just, like, fall asleep or you just black out. Like, that's it. Like, you don't feel anything. Like, there's no fun extra stuff.
That kind of depresses me a little.
That's sad.
Mm-hmm.
I want
a party. Here's what I want. You know what I want? I want to go to a place that I make up in my head and I'm having a good time, and then I decide when I want to get reincarnated and shipped back onto Earth.
Right.
If I want to.
Choices.
My choice.
You get choices.
If that's a Drag Race reference.
If you don't watch Drag Race, then I can't help you here.
I hope that's what it. But let's talk about Christianity in hell, because that is an anxiety that follows me to this day.
Yes.
Because how it was described. Have you all read Revelation?
Don't read it. Don't even look up the word Revelation.
That should be erased.
It is terrifying. Y'all want to not sleep at night?
And can I tell a funny story?
What?
One time, I have insomnia, and I've had sleeping problems since I was a kid. And one night, I go into my mom's room, and I'm like, Mommy, I can't sleep. And she's like, if you want to go to sleep, just, like, read the Bible. And, like, it'll help you fall asleep. And she was like, maybe Revelation, like, maybe read Revelation. And I went to sleep. I went in my room, I opened my Bible thinking I'm going to get a cute little story, and I read Revelation, and I wanted to die. My mom went on a trip for a couple days, and my dad, it was just me and my dad, and I went in there into my dad's room, and I'm like, Dad, like, these people are going to come to Earth, and we're going to be in pain, and like, there's going to be hellfire. But you know what? And Dad was like, don't ever do that again. Why did you listen to your mother?
But here's the thing, and I love the people that say that maybe this is hell.
Yeah, and you know, The Good
or like
Place.
Have you ever watched The Good Place?
Yeah. That was such a good show.
Right.
But
they think they're in the good place.
But they're in hell.
That's hilarious.
Isn't that funny?
I love that.
I really hope hell's not real.
But then does that mean that it's all about our perception?
Yes, and I think that makes so much more sense because, like, and here's the thing. Well, here's the only reason why maybe I would agree with hell existing is, like, for serial killers and, like, people who really do bad things, but they're a product of their environment sometimes,
right?
Which is not their fault.
Like, think about sex trafficking.
Not completely. Yes.
I struggle with that because I think so. If you're trafficked as a little kid, you know, you probably had no intention of becoming a trafficker, but you're trafficked as a little kid. Right? You get too old, some terrible shit happens to you, and then you grow up and they like recruit you. So you do what they did to you.
And did that person really deserve? Well, when we die, get a case manager that goes through it. We get an attorney. Literally,
honestly,
I hope it's like Soul.
But I don't want it to be called an attorney. I want it to be like
it's like an angelic. It's your caseworker. Is there gonna be social workers in heaven? I'm not working when I'm dead. I'm chilling.
Honestly. Well, when we work with clients, it is not our job to fix them or save them. All right. A lot of us need to start acting with a sense of humility. We should not have a mindset that we know more than our clients. We are not superior to them. So they are people who are just looking for some assistance or are having problems with living. And a lot of those problems stem from systematic, environmental, and social issues that the church is a part of.
And perpetuating.
Yes. And so let's get into those things. The church being against LGBTQ+, the patriarchal BS of women being submissive to their husbands. That's what it is. That's what the Bible verse says. They want them to be submissive to their husbands. And I was thinking about how that plays into gender roles and norms and even possibly, domestic violence.
Oh my gosh.
I was thinking about that as well.
But there are so many times where...
And victim blaming.
Yeah. There are so many times when, like, people would come to speak at the church and they're like, I was a drug abuser, or, like, I used to abuse, like, people in my life. And the woman would be there and be, like, talking about, like, when she was in this marriage that she's still in. And him having changed, but she stayed with him because she was married to him. And she thought, once I'm married once. I stay with this person forever.
Let's talk. Yeah. That's another thing, because in different religions, like,
divorce is a taboo.
Exactly. Divorce is taboo. But then also you can't have sex before marriage, so you're going to get married young so that you can have sex. But then it's a vicious, terrible cycle, and it needs to end. Another problem is the church doesn't believe that women have the right to be in control of their body when it comes to virginity and abortion rights. Again, there are probably
also some sexual assault.
Yep.
They 100% blame the women or put most of the blame on what happened to them because of what the woman was doing, wearing, or whatever. And that's just a fact.
Yeah.
That is just a fact. Literally no one can argue on that. The church 100% does that. I've seen them do that.
Yeah, they do a lot.
I've seen it happen.
If I would, like, dress a little bit like, sexy.
When would you dress like that going to church?
I'm just cute, so I
don't remember that. What are you
Yes, like if we wore shorts, or
shorts.
If we were like kissing somebody.
Well, you were doing the kissing in church.
Shunned.
All right, you were a little wild.
We were branded with the scarlet letter A. Also, reason number 4, and I talked about this as well, is that Christian will use the Bible as a weapon. I've witnessed this happen not only to myself but others, and it's disgusting. And we need to chill out. Again, you're no better than anybody else around you. So stop using the Bible as an excuse to be a shitty person. It's not cool. And I hope that progressive churches, begin to have these conversations and start making some changes. Because they will use the Bible as a weapon. Like we've said, hell, the misinterpretation of
blaming victims.
Yeah, just all of it. So, yes, I think the churches definitely need to start changing. I don't, go to church anymore. I did when I first got into college and there was still the same BS going on. I thought maybe it would be different as we, all got older and like kind of started to have our own minds and ways of thinking, but it really wasn't. Like there was still the same stuff ingrained in the people of the church, and I understand that it's hard because it is so...
You're so intertwined.
Yes, like it brainwashes you so much, but I think that if you felt harm from it, then I think those are the people that are like, wait a second. Right. You know what I mean? Like you're like, that's messed up.
If it is contributing goodness into your life and you are not hurting other people with it, then there's no problem.
Yeah, but no.
It
doesn't do that a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And lastly, So I think about this a lot, and I hope people don't get offended by it.
I didn't, but
you never thought about this?
No,
I did. Okay.
I mean, I thought it was weird. I was like,
so because I'm in social work, like, and I'm a woman, a lot of things that I advocate for are women's rights, and the right to consenting in all your sexual experiences, but also just in everyday life. So did Mary give consent for Jesus to be put in her? Like, I would love to have a conversation with her because, and I literally looked this up because I think about this a lot more than I should. And I looked it up and they said there was mixed reviews. Some people were like, yes, and some people were like, no.
Well, I mean, she was talking to the angel and she was like, look, I don't want to do this.
That's how I remembered it. Because I remember them saying that she was like weird. Because, that's how all Bible stories go. People are like, no, Jesus, you can't use me. And then, and then a burning bush comes up and you're like, oh, okay, Jesus.
And poor Job or whatever his name was, his whole life was taken from him. God. That poor man.
But, Mary was impregnated without her consent.
Well, who wants that job? Honestly, who wants that job? Not me.
No.
I don't want to carry. No. And she didn't even get to do the fun part.
No.
And it's just so typical that she is a virgin. Mary. That she somehow magnificently got pregnant. If that wasn't true, she pulled off the biggest scam in history. She was like, no, guys, an angel came down. I swear to God. An angel came down.
Because honestly, like, wouldn't you be? Because like
the fact that I know men would believe it, they would believe that over a girl having sex
freely 100% and having an orgasm.
And Joseph,
for fun,
and didn't Joseph not believe it? He said, "That's not my child."
Yes. Next, I want to give a shout out to Miss Mary Magdalene. Because everybody keeps calling her a hoe, and I'm pretty sure she's just a bad bitch.
Listen.
When I found that out, I like fell out of my chair.
The amount of times that they called her a whore for what? For what? Is there any proof? No. I think maybe, here's my theory. Are you ready?
What's your theory?
One of the disciples had a crush on Mary Magdalene.
Ooh.
And she said, no. I don't want your ass. I want, the chosen one. Jesus. Right.
Oh, he wanted to get with Jesus.
No. Mary wanted to get with Jesus.
Oh, Mary Magdalene.
Because he's the chosen one. He has powers and shit.
Like Harry Potter.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, okay.
It's all Harry Potter.
So Mary Magdalene is...
Right. And Peter was like, I want you, Mary. And Mary's like, I don't want your ass. Can you raise people from the dead?
So he went to the scrolls, and he started writing.
Mary he was slandering Magdalene. Mary. Whore.
The first burned book. We need to really stop. I didn't study religion in college, so when I was doing research for this episode, like a lot of the things, like, me asking, like, I genuinely want to know if she gave consent. Like, the whole thing about Mary Magdalene, and like we even were wondering if Joseph was a virgin.
Probably not, because that's never talked about. Because he's a man and no one cares.
And when you look these things up, especially things about the Bible, because this isn't the first time I've looked up things about the Bible. Obviously, I have a lot of issues with it, so I tried to look things up as a kid to be like, can somebody give me some answers? It's very hard to find an unbiased opinion, and it's hard to find sources that are just talking about it freely. A lot of the time they have an agenda. So with that being said, if you do study religion, I think it'd be really cool if we could like connect, or like maybe if you could come on the podcast to like,
or a different perspective. Yeah. It's all love. It's all love and peace.
Right?
Yeah. We can have a conversation.
I love it.
You can talk, Yeah. There's no
Let's
animosity.
We can make this a series.
And what would be even more interesting is having this series with people of different religions.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're listening to this, you come from a different perspective, different religion, that would be so interesting because we weren't raised in that.
So before we officially end, I wanted to give some resources. So literally for the longest time, Kaitlyn and I have had these conversations that we've had today with each other, screaming at the top of our lungs, really mad at the church.
Because
late at night.
Well, she is my only friend at the moment. That's a lie. I have 2 other friends, but...
Well, we have a really great relationship, and we talk about these things. We talk about these things often, and so when I wanted to make a podcast, I always said that this was the first official episode I wanted to do because it just needed to be talked about. I think we could have.
It's a huge organization. The church is involved in everything.
Much, yes.
And I think, problem with authority, like the church is one of the biggest authorities in the world.
Yep.
And in all different religions.
Especially Christianity. Christianity tries to take the cake every time when there's so many other religions out there.
They continue to be on brand.
Yeah.
And they continue to do these things.
So I'm hoping that the brand change. They do some remarketing.
They rebrand a lot, but they need a serious deconstruction.
A makeover.
They need to hire some new people. Mm-hmm. It needs some work.
Yeah. But with that being said, when I was preparing for this podcast, if you guys don't know about Melanated Social Work, you need to know. They have a podcast and they also have an Instagram, and they did an IGTV special called Unpacking the Church with Reverend Jackie Newsom. And this was an awesome special. And it was from the perspective of the Black church. And she is a woman, and she is a reverend, a Black woman. And I thought that was so cool because you don't often see women authorities within the church.
True.
And just the perspective that she gave with going through school and learning about religion, and her perspective on like, hey, so the church got this wrong. The church got gay being a sin wrong, right? Uh-huh. And it's just so beautiful and refreshing to hear.
And it's healing, I think.
Yes, and it was so good because it was so good. And so if you're struggling with religion or, Christianity specifically, I really suggest you to go watch that because spirituality is a really cool thing, and I think it could really
specific.
Yeah, and it can really help you in a lot of ways. Yeah, so 100%. I wouldn't want, you to miss out on that because of the trauma of the church. Because we've said it many times, like we've had to do some serious healing. Like I was very mad for a very long time.
Me as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for people to know, like, even if you're raised in a specific background, you always should have the choice of choosing it again. Mm-hmm. So even if you grow up and you still believe the things that you were raised in, perfectly fine, as long as you're keeping an open mind and trying to recognize the problems within it, because it's important for you to choose it again and make that decision for yourself instead of just doing things just because you were taught it. Try to research it.
Have an open mind. Critically think. Question.
Think
critically,
question, which is something they tell you in every class you ever take.
Mm-hmm.
So
and don't let the Christians scare you. Don't let them. The statistics. They'll be like, when 90% of Christians. Teenagers, when they go to college, they turn away from their faith. You're not going to be that, right? And I'm like lying.
But I mean, it happens because they get different point of views. Yes. And they really talk about and understand what they went through as kids. Yeah. And it's important for people to make the decision themselves. Yeah.
And scaring people into believing something is abusive.
100%.
And that's not going to get you anywhere.
No. And it doesn't last long.
No, it doesn't. It absolutely does not. Mm-mm. It does not. It doesn't last long,
the imprint of the trauma might last long. Yes. But them choosing to continue to go back, it doesn't last long. Mm-mm.
So it's not a great recruiting tactic for anybody listening.
No.
So reverends like Jackie give me hope for the church. And like I said, if you're struggling with some of the messages that the church preaches, Jackie is a certified reverend and lawyer, and she debunks some of them on IGTV, which I think is really awesome. And I'm thinking that this series of Problem with the Church will continue. My friend and social worker Michelle said that she wanted to come on and talk about her perspective from the Catholic Church, which I think would be really cool. And if anybody else is interested in, listening to more podcasts regarding this and like just the authority that the church does have over so many different aspects of people's lives and systems, would be really cool. So, thank you, Kaitlyn. I hope you all enjoyed.
FSU, if you're listening, please let me in.
Right?
Please.
Amen.
Amen. Praise Jesus, Holy Spirit, God. Alyssa Edwards.
Oh my goodness.
All right. Thank you.
So, before you all go, next episode will be about problem with prisons. All right.
Ooh.
Bye, guys.